All right, I'm in Blackboard. I want to show you a new option under the resources. There is now a project files folder. You may do project files instead of exams. I talked to our rep from Course Technology, the people who built this wonderful system, and she said that most schools don't like the exams. Really? They use project files instead, and so I tried the project files, and I think they're better. And I agree with her. The only problem I have with the project files is they seem a little too simple. Too bad for you, right? If you want to do more case problems, you can to improve your skills. But here's the project file. When you go to the project file, you get to download the instructions onto your computer at home. You get to download the starter file onto your computer at home or here in the lab. And you have your own copy of it. Once you've changed it and done everything you're supposed to do, then you upload it and it grades it automatically, which is good for me. And you get a score. You get 3 tries at it. So if you don't like your first score, you get to try it again. And there's even a report that tells you here's the part that you did wrong. Now, the part I haven't been able to test, and maybe I'll get one of you to work with me on it, is what does it look like on your end? But the good news is you get to download, so it can't crash, and you can't have a question that you can't see or a question that you don't know how to do just the right way. This program, this version of these things does not care how you do it. It just looks at the end result and said it's bold, or the chart's got the right data, or whatever. So here's an example, and when you click on OK, Mind Tap is unavailable between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. That's nice. Wish they wouldn't do that during the school day, but you click on OK, and you get to download the instructions. Then you get to download the starting file, and it will know who you are. It's magic. Your name is embedded inside the spreadsheet, which adds a little bit of a security issue because there's no way for anybody else to take your spreadsheet and submit it as theirs. Can't change them. So you download, and then when you're done, you browse for the file that you finished and you upload it. And it gives you a grade. Simple. I encourage you to do this instead of the exam. If you still want to do the exam, can you do both and get extra credit? No, but you can do both and I'll give you the highest score. How's that? If you wish. So if you use up your 3 tries on this exam or this project, and you're still not happy, then you can take the exam and see if you can do better there. I still encourage you to go through the training. But this to me is a nice compromise between the exam that's so darn picky and the case problems that I have to grade by hand. So I'm not assigning you any case problems anymore. These project files are worthwhile. If you have trouble with the project files, please let me know. But I have not had any trouble with them. I've taken the project itself and gone from there. And installed it and uploaded it and tested it and aced it and did all that good stuff. If you still wish to do the exams, because that's what you're comfortable with, you still may. In my grade book, the project shows up as 0 points. If you get 100 out of 0 on this, and 0 out of 100 on the exam, that kind of balances out, and you still get your 100 points. So in the grade book, you'll see the grade logged in the appropriate place, and the other one will stay as 0, and it won't matter. Not at all, because they'll balance each other out. If you do both, I will exclude one of them from your scores. If you do both, please email me to let me know that you did both, and I need to exclude them. Questions on that?
Easier.
Pardon me?
I think they're easier.
I think they're easy, yeah. I think the case problems themselves are harder. And the exams can just be annoying and tricky sometimes. I think they're easier, but that's my opinion. I think the reason they're easier for me is because I know what I'm doing and the exams keep telling me I'm doing it wrong. Again, do the training. You should be fine. Next week is capstone week. So there's no lecture on my part. I will not be lecturing, but I will be here for the entire time, at least as long as one of you's here. I recommend you come in and do the capstone. I'm guessing the capstone, when you did the capstones for Microsoft Word, you had to download an instruction file and download a starter file and go from there. It's exactly what these projects are. I have not looked at the Excel capstone yet. My guess is it's a little more complicated than these projects, but should lead you right into the right case. For tonight's assignment, for those of you who don't want to listen to me, would rather do something, case one. Last chance, questions? All right, then project for unit 4, please open up the tutorial file, find it out on the iDrive like you always have. And in this unit, we're going to be talking about two things. First of all, the financial functions. That won't take very long, because there's one in here that's really handy. So we're going to talk about those, and then we'll spend most of our time talking about charting. For those of you who like to follow along and make sure I'm following the book exactly, forget it. I'm not doing it. I got my own list of instructions today. We're going to fly through this hopefully a little bit faster, and if we don't, imagine how long it would have taken if I'd followed the book. All right, so I have my own set of instructions. I'm going to skip a lot of stuff that's in the book because they format titles 5 times. Once you know how to do it, it doesn't matter anymore. So open up Excel and go find the Levitt file as its name. You should be able to find it in Excel 4 on the iDrive in the Bob Smith folder if you want to follow along, or you can just watch. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention real quick is in addition to this recording that I'm doing, I also have some mini recordings. This unit is actually part of my Excel Intermediate class. And so if you want some mini recordings, instead of an hour long, some of them are 5-10 minutes on a specific topic, you can go here and go charting YouTube videos. Here's my instructor's notes if you want to look them over. But here's the YouTube videos that I have specifically for this, and I did them for the other class because they're online and they don't get to listen to me, or don't have to listen to me. I guess it depends on your perspective. So those are available. And the recording just showed you where they are so you can go back to them. Okay, to start with, we're going to take a look at financial functions. I mentioned last week in Unit 3 that there are hundreds of functions, formulas that Excel already knows has been pre-programmed to create for you. Hundreds of them. A number of them are financial functions. Oh, I've forgotten how to zoom again. There we go. No, that's not quite right, but we're getting where we want to be. A number of them are financial functions. If you don't understand these, the good news is we're only going to be using one. Future value, you can figure out what all these kind of things mean. If you need them, know that they exist is kind of the point of this list here. If you need financial functions, you can use them, or that they're available, and this kind of describes them. The one that we're going to be using is the payment function. The payment function calculates the payment. If you borrow X amount of money at 8% interest for 60 months, like a car or a home loan, this will calculate your monthly payments. So if you're looking to buy a car, and you're wondering whether you can afford it and what your payments will be, this will figure that out. Very handy. There's one key feature, though, to these functions, and that is that you must use the same units for everything. When you make payments, you usually make payments what? Once a month. If you're making payments monthly, then you have to calculate your interest rate monthly. Most of the time, if the car dealership or the bank says we're going to charge you 5.5% interest, that's annually, every year. So when you're using any of these financial functions, you want to make sure that all your units of time are the same. Many businesses pay their loans quarterly. Some people, when they buy their houses, pay bi-weekly. You got to figure all that out there. This example that we're going to do does that. So I'll come back out here, and I'm going to switch back to my spreadsheet. And we want to go to the overview page. And in the overview page, we're just going to use this little chart. And when we're done, This is something you could steal to calculate the payment on just about anything. And we'll do a couple of examples. First, let's do one of our own, just as an example, and then we'll plug in the ones the book wants us to. Did you find a file? So up here is the loan amount. So let's say that we're shopping for a house and we find one and we want to know, can we afford it given our budget? What we really want to know is, what are the payments? Now, this doesn't include all the taxes and all the rest of the fun stuff that you get to do, but it does include the interest that is usually part of your mortgage payment as well, and insurance, all the rest of it is not included here. This is just the payment on the loan. Let's say we're looking at a $225,000 house. If that seems extreme to you, hang in there. You'll be able to afford it soon after you know all this Excel stuff, be able to get some high-paying job and buy those kind of houses. The annual interest rate. Give me a typical one for a home loan. Anybody know? 4%? Okay, let's bump it up a little bit just to show that you can go to 4.25, 4.25%. And how many payments do we usually make in a year? 12. This number is used to convert our interest rate, which is 4.5% a year, into an interest rate per month. So that's what we're going to do here. What's the interest rate per month? Because we're paying every month. Simple to do. You simply push the equal sign, the percentage, divided by the number of periods in a year. And so we're only paying 0.35% per month. How many years does it usually take to pay off a home loan? 30. And so how many total payments are we going to make? Same kind of formula, 12 times 30 years. Tells us how many months. Everything is in months. We make payments monthly. So the total number of payments we make are in months. The interest rate is in months. Everything's in months. Now we're ready to calculate the actual payment here. Now we already know that the name of the function is payment. We saw it in the book. So I'm going to start with an equals PMT. Try it again. T. There it is. So I'm just going to press enter. That didn't do it. What did I need to do? PMT. No, it's not showing. There it is. Double click it. And underneath it says I need the rate, and then I need the N per, and I need the PV, and I need the FV maybe. And wait a minute. What is all that stuff? If you're not sure what this means, this is for people who really understand the formula already. Just click on the FX button and it'll bring up our trusty dusty dialog box that helps clarify some of this stuff. Kind of move that out of the way so you can see your numbers. And the first thing they want to know is, what's the interest rate? Now remember, we want the interest rate per month. What you'll see in many other books, don't follow me here, what you'll see in the other books is here's the interest rate, and inside that box they divide by 12 to change it from annual to monthly. Perfectly acceptable, except we already have that stored right here. So just click on C8. That's our monthly interest rate. N per, if you click on it, gives you a little description down here, is the number of payments for the loan. Oh, total number of payments, 360. So the nice thing about this function dialog box is when you click on these boxes, it helps you out. And then finally, what's the present value? What are you borrowing? 225. The future value and the type, the book describes them. I've never used them. Future value, what if at the end we want to sell the house and we don't, or we're not going to pay off the whole loan? And we don't go there. Everybody wants to pay off their loan. So we're done. And notice down here at the bottom, it already gives us a number. It's negative. Negative 1,106. The book is happy with negative numbers. What that basically means is it's an accounting debit, right? This is money that's coming out of your checking account every month. But if you want that to be a positive number, the easy way to flip it, I'm pretty sure, is just put a minus sign in front of the C5. It just flips the value. And now it's a positive number. That's one way to do it. There's another. It doesn't matter. the book actually likes them with the minus signs on them. Click on OK. And there's your monthly payment on a $100,000 or $225,000 home. What's missing here is the down payment. What if I put $25,000 down? Well, then obviously that amount of money is going to go down, but you're also going to be out $25,000 immediately. This assumes no down payment, and there aren't too many banks that are letting you do that anymore. But at least it gives me an idea. It's going to cost me $1,100 and change per month to pay off this loan over 30 years. The other thing that's interesting, or call it scary, is what's the total amount I'm paying? Equals this amount times my 360. If I pay that 360 times, how much am I paying for that $225,000 house? Ouch. That's $400,000. Ouch. Yeah, well, that's the interest. Even at 4%, 4.25%. The rest of that's interest over 30 years. Darn thanks. Well, if you had $225,000 in cash laying around, you wouldn't have to pay that extra. But most of us don't. That's why we get loans. And this number you never want to show anybody because it scares the heck out of them. This number, can you handle that per month? Now remember, this was roughly $400,000. One thing I do want to show you is what if you made payments bi-weekly? Because most of us get paid every 2 weeks. And if I make a payment every time, I'm making some payments early. That should reduce the interest rate. Plus, I'm really making one extra payment a year because there's 26 payments in a year. Let's change it. 26 payments in a year. Press enter and let's see what happens to my 400,000. Well, I guess it didn't change much. 780 payments. Each payment is now 510. I guess it didn't change too much in the long run. I kind of thought it would. So if the bank offers that to you, you could say, well, what's in it for me? Because I'm not saving a whole lot here, just a little bit. And on a monthly basis, this is $1,000.20 every month versus the $1,100 we had before. So it's kind of saving you $80 a month payment. Close. So that's the calculations. And now you can what if I can get a lower price in the house? I could put the down payment in here, do all kinds of things. Let's put the books numbers in here so we have something close. It's supposed to be $310,000 is what they're borrowing. And this is a business loan. The poor people are paying 8%. And they're paying 12 times a year. But notice how easy it is to what if this. And that number doesn't sound right. What else? They're only borrowing it for 10 years. Business loan. So they're paying almost $3,800 a month. And they're still going up $140,000 over 10 years. But that's a bigger loan. Questions on the payment function? Very handy. If you keep this spreadsheet around, you just change the numbers. And you can use it for car loans, you can use it for personal loans, home loans, whatever, and get an idea of what it's going to cost you. Of course, there's also dozens of internet payment calculators out there. If you want to just go to the web and search for them, you'll find them. But I don't know if I trust the web as much as I trust my own Excel formulas. Most of them are fine. All right, then we need to go into the projected cash flow. And the rough estimate was that we're paying $45,000 a year. They're just estimating. And so they want us to put that amount in, where did it go? Loan repayment right there. And then we will be using this. It will affect our charts later. So we're going to put 45,000 in there as an estimate. And then fill that all the way across to the last year. Looks like I'm having a few mouse issues here. Okay, just at 45,000 all the way across. And that one we could have put in ahead of time. That didn't cost us much except to review fill. All right, now let's talk about charts a little bit. And again, I'm not going to be referring to the book much. How do we create a chart? Why do we create a chart? Charts allow us to graphically display our numbers, particularly in this spreadsheet that we have. There's a lot of numbers here, and it can get a little overwhelming. And if you wanted to analyze this stuff and what kind of progress are we making, charts can really help versus looking at the numbers and trying to figure it out there. So that's why, to improve our analysis capability of our data. There are all kinds of charts that Excel can do, and this is just a surface. There are column charts, very common, kind of like bar charts. We'll see them. We'll make one of many of these. We'll make a line chart, just draws a line, kind of like you see with stock prices. Pie charts, most people know what those are. Bar charts are just columns charts turned on the side. And a whole bunch of other stuff, including combo charts. And we're going to make a few of these and learn how to customize them, and then we'll be pretty much done with Excel. So those are the different types. When you build charts, you first have to select the data that you want to graph, and this is something that's an acquired skill. It takes a little bit of practice. So what we want to do is go into the overview, it's this one, and scroll down a little bit because they have some numbers there that we didn't see before, and now we're going to put in some charts. These numbers are kind of easy to analyze, but they're also very easy to chart, so we're going to use them as a warm-up. When you want to draw a chart, you first drag a box over the data that you want to chart, so that would be these numbers. However, Excel is also smart enough that if you grab this data and the titles across the top, it'll save you a lot of work, and it'll include those titles in the chart itself. And this is what I meant by it takes a little bit of practice figuring out what data to select to make your chart as quickly as possible without requiring a whole lot of customization on your part. The good news is the book tells you here's the data we want you to select. All you got to do is make sure you pick the right data. So that's the data that I want. I've got it here in my cheat sheet, B28 to C34. Yep. And then how do I create a chart? 2 or 3 different ways to create a chart. The first is use the quick analysis tool down here. If you click on that, it'll open up. And notice there's a tab across the top for charts. And you can do some common charts like a clustered bar chart or a clustered column chart or a pie chart. And if it's not on that list, you can click more and it'll basically take you to the second option that I'll show you a little later. We want a pie chart. Pie charts are used, and if you touch it, you see a percent of the whole here. Okay? Pie charts are used to show a percent of the whole. So whatever that green is, that's the Ruby Cabernet. It's a pretty small chunk. The Cabernet Franc is a pretty big chunk. Or maybe it's the Chardonnay. It's kind of hard to tell because it's so small. But this shows the percent of whole. What do we sell total? Another thing the book recommends, speaking of the word total, is you hardly ever graph the totals along with the data because it skews everything. The totals are everything added up, and now you're comparing it to the individual months or the individual items. Not a good plan. In this case, we don't have any totals to worry about. We want a pie chart, so simply click, and it creates the pie chart and puts it right inside your worksheet, and now you can move it around. We're supposed to move this into B16, so that's up a little bit. So I'm going to come down so I can see my chart and B16. The book recommends an alt drag. That's kind of hard for me to do on my MacBook, so I'm not going to bother. I will tell you in advance that the project that I recommend you do just tells you to get close. Get it in there. Don't put it right up again. Just get it inside of B16. It's close enough. You can just drag it. Whenever you've got a 4-headed arrow, you can drag it and park this thing wherever you want. You can also resize it. Like just about any other object we've seen in Microsoft Office projects, there's handles. So there's the bottom corner, and this thing's supposed to end up in D27. So I come up a little bit, come over a little bit, and drop it. the chart will automatically adjust to fit the space that you put it in. So the bigger you make it, the bigger the chart, the bigger the fonts and all that kind of stuff. You can read it better. This is fairly narrow, so I've got lots of white space. Whoa. Got lots of white space, but I can also see my legend, is what this is called, across the bottom. Ta-da, done. And I can almost see which colors match what where. The light, the Chardonnay is the big one. But now we get to customize this chart. You can do all kinds of things to it. Whenever you select a chart, click on it to select it, you get 4 little helpers. These are new in Office 2000. I want to say 13. They might have been there in 10, but I don't think so. These are new in 13. They allow you to manipulate things. If you click the little plus sign, that's for the chart elements. It allows you to decide whether or not you want a title, whether or not you want data labels. Notice you get little previews. Whether or not you want a legend, and if you click the arrows, you get choices. Where do you want the legend? If you want data labels, where do you want them? If you want the title, where do you want it? Every type of chart, we saw all the different kinds, the bar charts, the column charts, the line charts, they all have this little plus sign. They all have chart elements, but there's a different list. For a pie chart, there's only these 3. The next button down will, I'll tell you what, let's stay here. Let's say, because the book says, that we don't really want the chart title. So we turn it off. And notice how the pie chart got bigger to fill the newly available space. Let's add some data labels. And if I just hover on this, they go inside, except for the 1000. It doesn't quite fit because that green slice is too small. So I'm going to select this out here and say, you know what, I think I want them on the end for everybody. So they all look kind of the same. You can do a best fit. That's what kind of where we started. We can do inside on the end. We can do in the center. We can do a little call out. Oh, that's cool. Sort of. Also a little distracting. And then there's many more options that you can get to, but let's go with the outside end. Now they're there. What about the legend? Well, that's important for us to know what all these colors mean, so let's keep it, but let's park it over on the right because we got all that white space. And again, notice that everything adjusts to make room. So that's chart elements. And that's not all. What if instead of the amount here, because the amounts are down here, I want to see a percentage. Anything in a chart, anything that you want to manipulate. If you can't find it over here, and half the time I can't, I forgot to mention, this charting thing we're doing used to be a program, and probably still is, all by itself, standalone charting program. Complicated, tons of stuff, 600 ways to do things. And now it's embedded inside of Excel. That's nice, but it's complicated. So how do you find all this stuff? My advice, if you want to change something like these numbers, click on it. That'll usually select them. Then right-click, and you can delete, you can do some formatting, or you can just format the data labels. And in Office 2013, when you say format the data labels, a little box shows up, window pane shows up over on the right. And now we have more complicated stuff, like complicated fills, and complicated effects for 3D, and complicated sizes, and label options. That's what I want right now. If you can't find it, right-click it, see if you can find it that way. If I did charts every day, I might remember where some of this stuff is, but half the time I have to go looking around for where is this stuff. They want me to change it from a value on the end to a percentage on the end. Where is it? Well, if I want to change the data label, I right-click it and go looking around. Usually it's over here someplace, but now I find myself flipping around through all of these things trying to find it. When you're good at it, you'll know where it is. For right now, as long as you can find it, there's no rush. What if I want to change the number of decimal places? And down here underneath label options, by the way, notice I can still move them around. I can put in a number. And I can format that number. Right now, it's just a general number. And I want to format it for percent with 1 decimal place. And I immediately get to see the results. If you can dream it, you can probably do it. Questions about the data labels. Chart elements, basically. Chart title, data labels, and legends. We can move them around. We can customize them. I think the book has us go to the legend and customize it a little bit. Some more options. Notice now this changes to the legend. I'm going to format it. I'm just making this up now. And fill it with a solid color. That's boring. Let's go with a gradient so that notice the gradient starts lighter, gets darker. That's cool. Down here you can change the colors. So it kind of goes from a green to a blue if you wish. This kind of stuff you got to play around with, folks. It's amazing how many different options there are. And then over here, this is the 3D thing. So if I wanted to, I could put a shadow on it so it kind of pops out. Drop and just add a shadow. The book guides you pretty well on where these things are until you get to the case problems, and then you're kind of on your own. But in the middle of the chapter, it guides you to where these things are. The project does a nice job of guiding you to where to find these things if you can't find them later. Everything is customizable. Everything has the same kinds of options: gradients, fills, borders, shadows, etc. Even the chart itself could be 3D if we want it to be. All right, back to the chart. We talked about the different elements. Now let's talk about the formatting. Click on the paintbrush. That allows you to change styles. And these are predefined styles. So you can hover on these and see what they look like. Different kinds. Black background. Some people really like those because the numbers jump out at you, and so do the colors, and so on. Notice that some of these have predefined stuff where the labels show up. The book tells you which one they want you to pick. I think in this one they said pick number 12. That one's got just a slight shadow so that the pie seems to jump out at us. At the top of that is color. So if you don't like the color scheme, you can pick a different one. It changes the slice colors, including single color. Those are kind of hard to read sometimes. So that's what that button's for. It just changes the style of the chart altogether, and the colors if that's what you want to do. The last option, and again, these don't show up unless you've got the chart selected, is the filter. If you don't want to see everything, you can choose filter and turn off certain options. So let's say that I don't want any of the Pinot wines in here. Just turn them off, and as soon as you hit apply, then the chart changes to only show you the ones that you've selected. I want them all back, so I turn them back on again and apply. And now they're all back again. From there, you can do other things. The book suggests that maybe this won't print, this blue one won't print very well. What if I want to change the color of only one? Notice when I click the pie, I get all the slices. See, the handle's all the way around here. But if you click it again, you get just the one slice. And now I can go over here to my trusty dusty fill and say I want a solid color, and pick a different color from the list here that maybe isn't used, like this green. That's not good because it's right next to the other green, so maybe a light blue. That's not bad. Just experiment till it looks right. And again, if you don't like these colors, more colors, 2 billion, go nuts. Find the one that works for you. Could also use a gradient fill so that that one has, notice how it's got just a little shadow in it. I like the solid colors myself for pie charts. Sometimes you want to make one of these slices stand out. To make a slice stand out, maybe you want this yellow one to stand out. You select just that slice. Notice just the pie slice now has those handles. And then you can drag it away from the pie and make it stand out. It's called exploding a slice to make it come out, make it stand out, and you can control how far it comes out, etc. Very easy to do. Select what it is you want to change it. Another thing that many students find confusing is the book talks about the chart area and the plot area. The chart area is the background. How do you know what you have selected? My advice is go up here to this new tool ribbon. You can't hardly see it up there on the screen, but you've got a new chart tools ribbon that isn't there unless you have a chart selected. And choose format. And over here in the upper left, it shows you what you currently have selected, the chart area. If I choose slice, it tells me that I have the series production goal. If I choose the numbers, I have the data labels and so on. If the book says change chart area and you can't find it, you can come up here, drop this down and say, I want chart area. There we go. And it selects it for you. And then once again, you can come over here and choose a gradient and do whatever you want. In other charts, when we get to our bar charts, there's a plot area. For the pie chart, it's not very big. It's called a plot area. It's where the graph is. Notice it's just that little small part where the circle would have been if we hadn't dragged everything out of it. We can format that if we wish. Don't normally do it here. I'd save that one for the bar charts, where the outside is one color and then the background of the bar chart is a different color. There you go. You're a pie chart expert. Anytime you want to, more ribbon buttons and all kinds of stuff up here. You want to change the color of these to make them stand out. Most of your toolbar buttons here still work. I want to make them red. Find a way, change it to look the way you want it to. No questions. All right, then let's move to a column chart, different kind of chart. Column chart allows you to put columns next to each other so that you can compare the values of different, they call them series of data. So this one we want to graph using the estimated production. Let's see here. No, the projected flow. That's this one. I don't have much room here. Projected cash flow. So let's go there. And I'm going to close my pane up here so it's not in my way for selecting. And maybe even zoom out a little bit. You can't see very well, but you can see what I'm selecting. And what they want us to select for this one is a collection of cells. Remember when you're making charts that it's often wise to grab the data as well, or the labels as well, not just the numbers, but the labels as well. So they want us to grab B4 to L4. So that's all of this stuff. And where am I? B10 to L10. Okay, here. So now I have to hold the control key down and select these. And 18. So B18 to L18. So now what we've done is we've selected the total revenue and the total expenses, and we can compare the two. If we ever have one of these years where the expenses is higher than the revenue, like this first year, we're going to have a problem. But then it should get better. So we can select those and then create a chart. Now because we have a collection of cells here, there's no quick analysis tool. So we have to learn the other way to develop a chart, and that's go Insert on the menu. The book talks about these recommended charts. Let's just try it once. It'll give you a list and said, here's what Excel, and this is also new in 2013, here's what Excel thinks would be good ideas for charts. Here's a clustered column chart. Notice we got expenses and revenue, and I can see that right here, and see what the value of this is? I can see right there that in year 6, my revenue finally gets bigger than my expenses. So that's pretty cool. That's not bad. And then there's others with lines, and this one, if I click on it, you get a preview, and here's my expenses, and there's my revenue. Again, somewhere around year 6, I break even. Stacked doesn't tell me quite as much. Sideways, that's just a bar chart. Sideways instead of vertical. Let's do this one. What's nice about this recommended charts is it does show you some options, and you can say, oh, that's what I want right there. You get to see some previews without having to dink around too much. It's also an all charts option where you can pick different choices and see what it's going to look like. So let's just stick with this. Go back to recommended charts. This first one on the list that they recommended, and click on OK. There's my chart stuck right in the middle of this worksheet. Can I move it? Yes. How do I move it to a different sheet? Easy answer, cut and paste. Cut it from here, switch to the other sheet, and paste it. Another option is to use the Move Chart button. That's on the Chart Tools ribbon in the Design tab, and you can click on that, and you can say, move this to the Overview chart, or the Overview tab. And when you do, it'll move it over there, and then you can park it like they do in the book. They've got all kinds of charts on one page, and you can park this wherever you need to so that it looks good for you. That's not bad, but what I like, those are kind of small, and with pie charts it works pretty good, but what I like is to put them in a separate sheet altogether. So let's click the, is this one I'm supposed to move to a different sheet? Yeah. A different sheet. This will create a brand new tab along the bottom and fill it, no data, fill it with this chart. I'm going to call the new sheet test. Normally you'd give it a much better name, but I'm just playing around. This isn't what the book did. Click on OK, and now it fills an entire page, and I got lots of room to work. I think I accidentally dragged this down, so I can drag it back up again, and I can move stuff around, and I can do all kinds of stuff. But now it's huge, and I can see and manipulate this all I want. Here's the chart title. In the pie chart, we got rid of it. What if I want to change it to something else? I can simply type. So let's just say year to year. How come it's not changing here? Slight flaw if you ask me, but as soon as you press enter, this is what's selected. It'll replace it. Year to year, expenses versus revenue. I'm making this up. Enter. And there's my title. You want to format this, go to the Home tab and start dragging around all these kind of things here, and I can make it a little bigger because I got room, and I can boldface it and just go crazy. If I want to, I can right-click it and format it, just like I said before, same stuff. And now I get my format title over here, and I've got my title. I can add a fill and change the color. That's not bad. Change it here, make it kind of transparent so you can see through. I can drag it. I can do, you name it, I can do it. Maybe not drag it. There it goes. Since I have all this room down here, I could drag it, put it right in the middle. And then I could grab this thing and make it bigger. I'm just go nuts. Do whatever you want to make this chart look the way you want it to look. One handy thing to know how to do is how to change this scale. Microsoft Excel takes a look at the data that you've selected and says, yeah, it's taking you from 0 to 200 mil or 2 million. But I got a whole bar up here that I'm not using. We can change them. Once again, right-click, format. And it changes it over here. Probably didn't even need to right-click because this tab is already open. Probably just was available to me as soon as I clicked. If I click on a bar, this changes. If I click on the axis, that changes. These buttons are still here. If I want to change these numbers over here, that's the data, and we got to look around till we find the data. How about that one? Aha! Maximum 2.E6. That means 2 followed by 6 zeros. It's just a shortcut because the number's so big. And if we wanted to, we could change that to 1,750,000. Enter. And now my top bar goes almost all the way to the top. Somewhere along the way here, I lost my border. If I wanted to, I could turn it back on again. These now go up. Notice it starts at minus 5,000. Why is it going over 50,000? I want the minimum to be 0. Enter. There we go. That's better. And I want the steps. Notice the step is going up by 200,000. That's not bad, but let's see what it looks like with 250,000. Automatically adjust them all. You get to play. Do with them as you see fit. The book seems to like vertical axes grid lines as well, so lines that go up. Those I can add. If I want to add something that's not here, more likely than not, the plus sign is going to let me add it. Remember with pie chart, there was very little here. There was just 3 options to choose from in chart elements. Now, lots of stuff. If I want to, I can add an axis title. Which one do you want to add? I would like to add the primary vertical axis. The ones down at the bottom, those are years. I don't think I need to label those anymore. But what's this? So I can turn that on, and it just says axis title over here. Press enter, that should make it go away. And now it's selected, and I can type some text. So let's just say money. You can put anything in there you want. Don't press enter, starts a new line. Oh, one thing I forgot to show you. Let's go back to these data labels. Got a lot of extra zeros over here, don't you think? To get rid of those extra zeros, go back to my data, and that's this one, and it's tough to find sometimes. You just keep clicking on them until you find what you're looking for. Axis options, there we go. And notice the units are designated as none. I can change the units and say I want thousands, and it automatically renumbers those things and puts a little thousands on the side. Maybe I want millions. But now it's 0, 1, 1. Well, that's not good. So once again, I go to the number and format it with 2 decimal places. Maybe I want currency. 2 decimals. And now this is 1.75 million, this is 3/4 of a million, and so on. For most of you, you're watching me because I'm going fast now that I have my own plan. I'm going fast. If you want me to slow down a little bit, just say wait, and I will. Sort of. The point is, draw the chart using the data that they suggest for you. Real world, I experiment. I highlight titles, highlight data. What's my chart look like? Not too good. Maybe just start over. Pick something different until I get the chart that looks like it, or I can manipulate it. Either way. All of this stuff that I'm doing is in the book. They just do a whole bunch of extra stuff that I don't think gains you much. Once you get the idea that you click on this and over here, you can manipulate it to your heart's content. If it's not over here, it's probably in the Home tab. You can play with a lot of these things and manipulate stuff. Cut and paste. All right, next example, just a real quick, we're going to do a stacked bar chart just so you can see what it looks like. So if this one isn't done, don't worry about it. Going back to the projected cash flow page. And this time I'm going to select B4 to L4. That's what I have. Get this thing out of the way so that it doesn't hamper my selection. And I want to select B13 to L17. So that's here. Control to L17. But once again, look, I've selected titles, and I've selected data. Normally when you do that, you'll have pretty good results. Don't just select the data, then you got to go find the titles later. That's painful. What kind of chart do we want? Insert. Oh, we still want a column chart. But instead of a regular one, these are 3D, these are called stacked. And if you look at the preview, this is really an interesting chart. I call it a combination column chart pie chart because each column is a little mini pie chart. In that last year, I can see how much blue, how much orange, and how much dark blue money I've spent. And I can watch the orange bar get bigger and bigger and bigger. What is that? Labor. Oh, okay. Makes sense. What's the blue one? The grape cost goes up. And notice the dark blue bar at the top, the dark blue bar at the top, I'm going to lock that one in, always stays the same. The yellow bar stays pretty much the same. Miscellaneous expenses not changing much, and our loan payment shouldn't change. Once we get the loan, it should stay pretty fixed. And so we can see the percentage of the whole that these things are costing us and do some analysis from that. Just to do another example, I'm going to move that back to the main overview sheet. And just park it out of the way someplace. It's just another example. Let's do another example and then we'll take a break. The last kind of common chart is a line chart. So in this case, we're going back once again to the cash flow, once again selecting B4 to L4, and then B27 to L27. So I'm just going to take this data down here at the bottom, including the title, once again, and add it. Oops. Start over. B4, L4, and then 27, cash flow, all the way across. Again, I could ask for a recommended chart, but what I want to see here, since it's only one piece of data, I'm looking for progression. A bar chart can show me that, but so can a line chart. And what's interesting about this one is the years are sitting here in the middle. And this is 0 because some of those we've had some cash flow problems and then it improves as we go. There's still the opportunity to add stuff, lots more things. Opportunity to format, pick one, interesting. Still the opportunity to filter. If we want to take some of the years out, we can. All the same stuff. I honestly believe the hardest part of charting is figuring out which data to select to get the chart without you having to play around with it. And the good news for you is the book tells you exactly what data to select. So just select carefully and you should get a halfway decent chart on it. Once again, I'm going to move this to my overview page. Park it out of the way. Just made a mess again. And I can come back to it later if I want to. All of these can be resized and put in different places. I'm going to save this. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll do just a little bit more manipulation, one more chart. Then we'll do something a little different. Those of you having trouble keeping up should be able to come back to me at that point. So let's take that break.